Good, good. Hey, are there any hurricanes heading towards your way?
I saw there was one forming. There's 40% chance, but they always say that, then it kind of tapers off. So we'll see.
Also, yeah.
Not right now,
Oh,
confirmed.
that's good. We bought a place in Fort Myers a couple years ago, and then the following year, Hurricane Ian came along.
No.
Right, so we were fortunate that our lanai, like a couple screens got blown out, whatever it is. But we have rentals in Cape Coral, and my brother, my son, and we jumped into my son's pickup truck, couple generators in the back, drove all the way down like the same week, like a few days after, right?
Yeah.
To start the repairs, getting things back to normal, because Cape Coral got hit really, really hard. So did Fort Myers Beach. I've never in my life imagined like anything like that. What you see on TV is one thing, but when you see it in person,
You see the person, yeah.
yeah,
Well, luckily, I've never seen it. I think that side gets hit more severely.
yeah,
We've not really been hit since, I've been here 7 years. There's never been a direct hit.
yeah.
So
Hopefully you never do. Like that was, yeah. And one thing I was not surprised, but really impressed. We took 2 generators down with us because we were expecting 0 generators in the store, even if they had power and gas, all of that stuff. When we got there, Home Depot, Lowe's, they did such a great job just shifting inventory from northern states down to the Southwest coast. And there were we didn't need a generator. There were thousands of them everywhere, I should say.
that's awesome.
And as we're driving down, honestly, I swear, it was like mile after mile after mile, bumper to bumper of utility trucks just coming from all these other states, heading down into that area. And the amount of time it took them to get things up and going was incredible. Right? 'Cause we got Eastern Canada got hit, not to bash Canadian government or anything like that, but world of difference. Like Americans just jumped on it. It was very, very impressive how quickly things got up.
They're well prepared.
Yeah.
They'd have here frequently.
I
So
think that's a lot to do with it, right? And but the destruction, I can't even describe it. It was incredible.
devastating.
But
Yeah.
anyway, want to jump into it?
Sure, let's do it.
Awesome. Hey, Mena, thank you so much for joining us. My name is Pedro Ribeiro, and we are on the Collecting Compounders podcast. This is the cross-border edition. And today we have Mena from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Mena is a immigration lawyer, estate planning attorney, and business. Finish that sentence for me.
Business law. So we have 3 practice areas: immigration, estate planning, and business law. And the reason we have these practice areas is because we basically facilitate the move. 90% of our clients are Canadian, so they're going to come down, they need a visa. Well, guess what? They're going to need estate planning to protect their assets, and they're going to need to buy a business, because if you're coming with E2, you need a business for that visa. So we can help facilitate all aspects of that process. And as you can see, I am in Fort Lauderdale. We were talking about my background before, but I am Canadian. So I was a Boltonite. Grew up in Bolton, Ontario. And my mom and I, along with our family, moved down to Fort Lauderdale 7 years ago. And when we came down, Pedro, it was very difficult. We didn't know what we were doing. It wasn't that time when everyone was moving down. So, we were like one of the only Canadians. Our family and friends were like, where are you guys going?
Yeah, crazy. Why are you going to the U.S.? And
crazy, yeah. But we saw the light, I guess. And when I got here, I initially came on an E2 visa. My parents came on an E2 visa. And when we got here, we said, wow, there's really a need for good service when you're moving countries, when you're moving from Canada to the United States. So I guess it's all about timing as well. We set up this firm just in time for the biggest exit in Canadian history. So we've been fortunate to help a lot of Canadians come down to Florida and Texas now.
And Texas. So you've just expanded your practice into Texas. So congratulations on that. That is fantastic.
Yeah, we can really help all 50 states, but those are mainly where people are wanting to move.
Okay. Now, if I read correctly, you were recently out of university when you made the move to Florida, right? And then you became a lawyer in Florida. How
That's right.
Why Florida though? Why the U.S.? What attracted you? Because this is pre-COVID. You went down pre-COVID.
Yeah, it was 2017.
2017.
Well, I think there's many different things that attracted us, and I can go through those. Main thing was the weather, lifestyle. Okay, so we lived in Bolton. It was boring. It was cold. um, and we came on vacation down to Florida. And, we had gone to other Caribbean islands or, all-inclusive vacations, but you can't really imagine yourself living at an all-inclusive resort, right? It's not real practical.
Right.
When we came down to Florida, we're like, okay, this is kind of Caribbean meets Canada. So we can do this here, right? So we came down on vacation. We loved it.
And if you're not a fan of the heat, July and August do get a little sticky, right?
Yes.
The heat there. What's
that would be a good place to visit Canada.
Yeah, what's the temperature there right now?
I think it's 30 degrees.
30 degrees Celsius, not Fahrenheit. Yeah.
No.
So Fahrenheit, that's in the 90s. Is that correct? Or approaching?
I think so.
Yeah.
I still have it mastered down.
Yeah, neither have I. It's funny. I remember, So Fahrenheit, I go Fahrenheit is for Florida, Celsius is for Canada. That's how I...
yeah, that's a good way of remembering things.
That's you.
I always like Celsius. Okay, what could that be? Room temperature 72.
Yeah.
I don't know what the other ones are.
Good. So, and did you jump into immigration law right away? Like, you saw the need for it, or were you in different areas? Like, what attracted you to the immigration specifically?
Right. So I came down on my own E2. And when I got here, I decided to go back to law school. While I was in law school, I connected with an attorney, Canadian, like us, who is in Fort Lauderdale and does business immigration law. So I start interning at his office. And through my experience there, I learned all about, how to come down as a Canadian to invest, different types of visas, employment-based visas. So really, I learned most of what I know from there initially. And then what attracted me is the need for good service. Okay, so most of the time when you contact an attorney, it's dry, it's a boring experience. You write an email to them, it takes 2 or 3 weeks to hear a response back. These are immigration attorneys generally. And that's what we experienced when we came down. So I went to my mom and I said, Mom, she has 30 plus years of business experience. I have the degree and the immigration knowledge. Let's open a practice. So our main priority is customer service, like I said, and we get things done relatively quickly for people. I have some people telling me, oh, my E2 is taking 1 year to 2 years. That's the projected time to turn it over. Well, we can turn it over 3 to 6 months, sometimes a little bit more than that, but generally that's our turnaround time. So we do things efficiently, quickly, and we give you good service on top of that.
So you've mentioned E2 several times. So for viewers, listeners that don't know what an E2 visa is, let's start there, because that seems to be a very popular topic right now for Canadians that want to move to the United States.
Yeah, the reason it's popular is because most Canadians who are business owners or who have had a successful career can afford to do it. It's usually, so it has 3 components. It's an investor visa, so meaning you have to buy a business, but you can either buy an already existing business, a franchise, or a startup, start up your own company. And there's 3 requirements that the U.S. consulate in Toronto is looking for. They're looking for a substantial investment. So that's anywhere from $80,000 to $100,000 typically.
Okay, so not bad.
Not bad. It doesn't have to be exactly that number based on the industry. So we could take a look at the big picture and help you through that.
But especially if you're buying a business or starting a business for a startup cost, it's not bad.
Not bad at all. Not bad at all. So $80,000 to $100,000 US. They're looking for a source of funds. So where'd you get the money from, as long as it came from a legitimate source? And the last component that Canadians sometimes, most clients have a hard time understanding is funds at risk, which means that before we actually apply for your visa, you have to spend the money.
Oh, wow. Okay. So explain that. How do you spend it? Explain that.
So you actually have to purchase that business, close on the funds have to be at risk.
Okay.
Meaning that you can't get them back.
So you're not actually spending it on expenses. You're actually spending it by buying a business, or
if that's the route you choose to go. So if you decide to buy an already existing business, that would be funds at risk, would mean you actually closed and the funds are out of your control.
Okay.
If it's a startup, so you come down and you want to start a pizzeria, for example, that would mean renting the space, buying the ovens, purchasing the inventory, the hire. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Good. And what are the benefits of an E2 visa? Because in a lot of people's minds is once you're approved or you apply for, let's say, call it citizenship, residency in the U.S., there's restrictions on crossing, like coming back to Canada. But with an E2 visa, it's different, right? It's a lot more flexible.
Right. So E2 is not a permanent residency green card visa. So it's a non-immigrant visa, which means you can stay on it, you can operate your business, you can get your social security number, build credit, you can buy a home, but you, through that visa alone, are never going to become a permanent resident. So in order to become a permanent resident, what a lot of people do is they'll come down. Now the E2 visa gives you 5 years. You as the principal applicant can work for your business. Your spouse can work for any U.S. company, so they have an open work permit, and your children can go to school. Now in that time, typically they'll explore other types of visas that they can transition over to that will give them permanent residency. But like you had mentioned, when you get the E2, you're free to stay in Canada, come to the U.S. There's no restrictions on the amount of time you actually have to be in the United States.
So that really is a great stepping stone if somebody wants to eventually become a U.S. citizen or permanent resident.
Exactly.
The actual fact that your spouse and family, they kind of tag along, is that correct? Like they're automatically included in that?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. That's really good. So I don't know if a lot of people actually know about that other than potentially business owners or professionals that are looking into the process.
The other beauty is that there's some flexibility in things that you can do. Okay, so a lot of people don't know this. You can, on the same business, have 2 families come down.
Okay.
As long as there's 2 partners and it's 50-50 ownership, and they both independently meet the investment requirements. So let's say you purchase a business for $250, $125 coming from each investor, each side, and the structure is 50-50 ownership. We can get 2 E2 visas, meaning that both principal applicants can come down, both of their spouses, all of their kids.
Oh, wow.
You can get a lot of people down on E2. And then the other wonderful part of E2 is once you get your E2 approved, you're issued a document that actually allows you to hire for a managerial role or supervisory role other Canadians.
Okay.
So they can come down easily on your E2, attend an interview just like you do. In the course of probably 3 or 4 months, they can be down working for your company as one of your employees.
It almost sounds too easy or too good to be true.
A lot of people tell me that. I think it's because as Canadians, we think that going to the United States is hard.
Right, exactly. Yeah, but it's not. And how busy are you right now? Not busy, sorry, not business-wise, but is this popular? Like, it seems to be popular, but it is extremely, right?
Extremely. So in the summer months, it's a little bit slower, I think, because, people aren't suffering
Right.
up in Canada summer months. But as soon as the cold comes, the floodgates open again. So right now, I would say we probably get on 10 or 20 new E2 clients a month. And in the winter, that's doubled.
So 10 or 20 per month, and then it doubles in the winter.
Correct.
And that's just your practice.
That's
right?
just me.
So
Yeah.
I'm sure there's dozens and dozens of other immigration lawyers out there. So wow, that's okay. And we also see or hear about Americans coming to Canada, right? So it's not just, I don't want to give viewers the impression that Canadians are just, abandoning Canada, not abandoning, but leaving Canada by the masses. Like we have Americans that want to come here as well. And for all different sorts of reasons, whether it's Canadians returning home after a long, a lifetime career in the U.S. or political reasons, business reasons, family reasons. There's all sorts of reasons. We see families going both ways. And we're in a position where that's what we do, right? We're a cross-border wealth advisory firm. So we work with Canadians living in the United States, Americans living in Canada, or families inheriting assets on the opposite side of the border.
Right.
As a registered investment advisor in the U.S. and portfolio manager in Canada, I have the dual license where we're able to do that. And we see both, traffic going north and south. But recently, I think there's a lot more Canadians going south than there are Americans coming north, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you ever get Americans asking you about coming to Canada to look into that, or that's not an area you look in at all? Just once.
I think one guy told me he wanted to go to U of T.
Oh, U of T, but that's for school though. That would have
Yeah.
been for school. Okay.
And know what? Right now, in this climate, a lot of people are moving here to the United States as opposed to Canada. I think there's definitely some clear indicators as to why they're doing that. I think you mentioned a few of them. But yeah, I think I haven't really encountered a lot of Americans asking me to go to Canada, but also that's not something we do. So maybe I'm just sheltered from it. But another great thing, Pedro, that we offer you that I think would segue well with what you do is estate planning.
Yes.
So
yeah, let's talk about that because that's very important.
Extremely important. And a lot of Canadians don't understand that when they own property in the United States, they are opening themselves up to some liability if it's not structured properly.
Correct.
What does that mean? I'm going to give you a real life example, okay? Let's say you come down just like you and your wife did and you purchase a vacation home on the beach or near the beach, which a lot of Canadians do, and you wouldn't know that you're not supposed to buy it in your personal name.
Right.
Now, let's say you go ahead and you do that because you have no idea. You think it's like Canada. You buy it in your personal name. And you're driving along, one sunny afternoon, and you're distracted by the sun, and you rear end. So, you rear end someone. Maybe that person's injured. Maybe they come after your insurance to satisfy the medical bills that they have to now have due to that injury. Now, once your insurance has been exhausted, they can actually ask you to disclose your worldwide asset.
Worldwide.
Okay,
that's interesting.
So
that's something.
anything owned should be in the name of a trust. Once your assets are in the name of a trust, well, when you're asked to disclose, you don't own anything in your personal name. It's owned in the name of a trust. So the trust will shield you from that scenario, from them coming after your home.
Okay.
The trust will shield you from probate. What's probate? Probate is the process that happens when you pass away. So if you pass away and you don't own your assets in the name of your trust, or you don't have a proper will in place here in Florida, your assets can go through probate, which is a long court proceeding where your kids or whoever you want to leave your items to, your next of kin, have to show up, pay, and go through the whole process, which is a nightmare. And in the meantime, your assets are frozen until that gets resolved. So they can't even use your assets to their benefit, which nobody wants.
Or sell real estate if they have to in order to meet debt obligations, costs, whatever the case might be.
Exactly. So that can be a big issue, obviously. And we have a whole package here that we can put together for anyone who, spends some time in Florida, has property or assets in Florida that they want to protect. Even your bank account, you can put in the name of a trust. So I highly recommend that, and it's relatively inexpensive to do so. It'll save you and your family a lot of headache.
So I'm very familiar with trust. Americans putting everything in trust. To Canadians, that's foreign.
Right.
Like their principal like you mentioned, their home is in a trust.
Right.
In Canada, we can't do that because the tax rules around trust in Canada are completely different than in the United States. So it's a very interesting topic, and one definitely we perhaps should have a podcast just on that on its own, because I think that there's a lot of valuable information that you can actually share with us on that. Now, in addition to A2 visas, are there other ways, like anything else that Canadians could look at when moving to the U.S.?
Absolutely. So there is a visa called E2 NIW. Okay. To meet this category, you have to have had an impressive career or you're an impressive entrepreneur. Okay.
Okay.
Now, the first requirement is educational. So if you have a bachelor's degree or higher, you could qualify for this visa. With a bachelor's degree, you need at least 10 years experience. With a master's degree, it doesn't matter the experience level. The other aspects that we're looking for is what is going to be, so we look at your career. Have you won awards? Are there citations? Have you published any book? What have you done that makes you stand out in your field? And then what is your proposed endeavor going to be when you get to the United States? Now, so it's a proposal that you come up with as to how you're going to take your skill set and your abilities and impact the United States in a positive way. So how are you going to impact the U.S. economy? How are you going to create jobs? We put together a presentation basically that we send off to the USCIS. And this type of visa leads to a green card. So It takes about a year and a half right now to get to that point. But if you are approved at that year and a half mark, you can have yourself permanent residency. So what a lot of people will do is they'll come to the U.S. on an E-2. They'll set up their business and start working on their endeavor, right? Because it's very strong when we submit that petition. If you've already started to make steps towards it, they'll start that, and then once they're here, we'll get that processing for them in the background so that they can get to permanent residency on their own without needing a U.S. employer to sponsor them.
Okay. That one I did not know about. I knew, I don't know the exact term or what it is called, but for specific roles, specific jobs, right? Whether it's technical or whatever, I don't know about trades anymore, but there's certain roles that the U.S. definitely wants to attract. So would that fall into that category maybe or similar?
So the TN, we're talking about a TN visa, that's employment.
Right.
And you have to be on the professions list, the USMCA profession list. If you have the degree and the experience to qualify, you need a U.S. employer to make you an offer of employment.
Okay.
And that can be done at the border. However, that doesn't lead to a green card either. It's just like E2. You can come down on it. Your spouse can come, but they cannot work. So it's not as advantageous as E2, unfortunately.
Okay.
There's more restrictions on it, yeah. But there's also, if someone has a lot of money that they have at their disposal, they can do an EB-5 as well. So EB-5 is green card by investment. The minimum investment is $800,000. Typically, there's two ways to do it. Either what's called a regional center, which is a government pre-approved project, creates jobs, it ticks all the boxes, and a broker would help you pick which project you're going to invest in. Or you can do a direct investment where you make an investment of $1,050,000 or up.
Okay.
And you create 10 new U.S. jobs by doing so. So an example would be you purchase a motel.
Okay.
And you employ 10 Americans through that purchase.
Okay. So the capital requirements for that is much higher than a E2 visa. It kind of sounds like, it's not, does it, but it's similar to Portugal has what's called the Golden Passport, right? It basically, if you buy real estate, and it was very, very popular, and the locals hated it because so if you bought real estate in Portugal, I think it was 300,000 euros, you automatically got Portuguese citizenship. And what a lot of foreigners were doing is buying anything, right? So prices of houses automatically start at 300,000 across the country. There's nothing below it because of this. So they buy a property, get their Portuguese citizenship, but with that, it now gives them access to the EU, right? The European Union, right? So they were buying it, but they were going to France, Germany, wherever, right? So it kind of backfired, and I think they made some changes to it, but it was very, very popular, or it still is popular, but it's not as easy as it once was.
Yeah. Well, this program has gone through so many changes. Right now is a good time to do it because you can do concurrent adjustment status. Now, what does that mean? I know it's like fancy words. It means that you can come to the United States from day one as a visitor, stay a while, and adjust your status and remain in the U.S. while your EB-5 processes.
Okay.
Which wasn't available in the past. You'd have had to wait in your country until approval.
So exactly, actually go there, start enjoying the lifestyle, whatever the case might be, and but good. Now, what are some of the pitfalls, or like, let's go, because not everything is rosy, right? Not everything works out as planned. Have you seen any, I don't want to call it mistakes, but like issues that have, like your clients have run into, or examples of other E2 visa applicants that you've come across or heard of?
Yeah, sometimes there can be delays with the consulate. So, when a client could expect to get their passport back in a week after the interview, sometimes they randomly decide to do a further background check into that person, and that person can be waiting sometimes a month or a month and a half to get their passport back.
They physically take your passport?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, that's scary.
It's weird. But usually it's just for the week, and then they send it back to you with the visa in your passport. So that can be shocking, but that's very rare. I've only had one person really have to deal with a delay like that. Sometimes if you go to the consulate and you get the wrong officer, they may nitpick at your petition and ask you for certain things that they don't typically ask for, where it would cause a delay. You'd have to leave, send those documents in, and kind of wait for them to process it. So that's the biggest annoyance I feel is the process, like that processing time at the consulate, and we can't control that. So that's frustrating for us as well, but we just try to help the client get through it. So that's really the main thing. Other than that, I find that a lot of people don't understand that they have to spend the money before we can apply for them. So they think putting it in the bank or having it available is sufficient when it's not. You actually have to show receipts. You have to prove to us that you've actually spent it and where.
Okay. So you have to set up your company, register it, apply for it, get the EIN number for the business.
Right. Which we would help facilitate the whole process.
You help with that. Okay.
Yes. Right. And when it comes down to actually purchasing the business, forming the LLC, operating agreements, we do all of that as well.
Okay.
So our goal is to make it as seamless as possible for our clients. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a website?
We do. MaimoneLegal.com.
That's fantastic. We could go on and on for a long time, but I don't want to take up the rest of your day. Is there anything you'd like to add? Just a quick tip. Actually, I do have a question. You've seen the full 5-year cycle go through now, right? Because you've been there long enough, right? So from your initial clients, how many of them extend or decide to continue on living in the U.S.?
Yeah, the firm has been around for 2 years. So I haven't had one of my clients reach renewal yet, just because the firm is young.
Okay.
But I do know, based on my work at the other firm, that upon renewal, a lot of people decide to do renewal, but a lot of people also decide to transition into a permanent green card basis. Reason being is that they don't want to continue renewing, and then after the 5 years, you have to renew every 2 years after that, which can become an annoyance. So typically they come down and they either choose, let's do EB5, let's get sponsored by an employer, let's try to come up with an endeavor or something like that. That's what they usually do. But when you do renew, it's not a big deal. If you do it with us, again, we'll have all the paperwork from the first time. You just need to update a few things and we can resubmit for them.
So would you say that the majority of applicants, their intent is actually to make the U.S. their permanent home?
I would say it's about 50-50. Yeah, half are investors. Maybe they opened a location in the United States and they just want to have that ability to go back and forth without issue.
Okay.
And the other half are just over living in Canada and they're okay with this temporary visa as long as it gets them the opportunity to come down, live, explore, see if they really like it down here, and then transition over to something more permanent.
What a great way to do it. You have the doors are open. You go back and forth. You could test it,
right.
Test the waters.
Exactly.
To say, and if you don't like it, you don't go. If you do like it, you could work on the next stage.
And some people ask me, well, do I lose my investment if I don't, if I decide not to stay on the E2? Well, obviously not, because you can sell the business, you can, whatever assets you have, and return home. So it's not a total loss to you. If you decide to go home, maybe you would even make a profit if you built this business up to a certain point, right?
Right, exactly. What's the craziest business you've come across?
Craziest business?
Or one that you thought, like, there's no way this is going to work, and it worked?
That's tough to say. The vegan bakery.
Oh, really? Well, that's legit, though, because there's vegans out there.
Yeah, but in my mind, because since I love to eat meat.
I'm a carnivore as well. Yeah.
So I think, oh my God, who's going to shop there, right? But surprisingly.
Like I've heard of, home stagers, property managers, right, for Airbnbs and stuff. I've been thinking there's thousands of them already, especially in Florida.
Yeah.
Right. So, but I guess these are actually applicants that go through.
Some people, they open up a property management company. They also do Airbnb arbitrage, which is really interesting to me.
What the heck is that?
They don't own the property, so they negotiate with the landlord.
Okay.
They rent the property from the landlord. The landlord has consented to them putting the property on Airbnb or VRBO. And then they furnish it, stage it, take photos and videos, advertise it, and they make their living that way.
What a great way to do Airbnb without actually buying the property. And full disclosure, some of our clients are actually shareholders in Airbnb.
Oh.
So I do have, I forgot about the big disclosure. Nothing here here today is actually legal or financial advice, please consult your the professional. And we're going to actually have that in writing at the end. I always forget about that. That's an important. My compliance department would definitely come down on me for that. But yeah, man, it was great speaking to you. But let's definitely stay in touch. And I wish you the best. You're doing great. I see you all over Facebook, right? So you're like, you own Facebook right now when it comes to immigration into the U.S. I'm sure you have a great career ahead of you. And well, let's meet in person next time I'm down in Florida for sure.
For sure. Let me know when you're down here and we'll set something up.